Hey, can you hear me, Bookman? Michael, you there?
Hi, man. Yeah, I'm good. I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, let me turn this up. There we go.
Okay, I might be a little bit laggy because I don't know. I've just had my modem thing changed here, and I was like thinking, oh, it's going to be really great, but it's not. I think I'm going to have to get a internet, Ethernet connection via my, a direct connection because Wi-Fi is just not very good.
Yeah,
So
I have
anyway,
my.
how do you do? It's good to meet you.
Yeah, you too. You're in Britain, right?
Yeah, Britain. Yeah, yeah, England. Yeah, England,
Yeah,
which
that's
is like
really cool.
in
I've
Britain.
debated a couple people from Australia, so it's cool to be able to talk to someone from Great Britain or England. Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah, I think I'm about the only one actually in the UK. It's quite confusing, isn't it? We've got
a
like
little bit. Yeah,
England and
people are
then
working on like
Britain
timing and
and
everything.
the UK.
Yeah,
Even a lot of British people don't understand how it all works. You've got Britain and then Great Britain,
yeah.
the UK,
There's a
then
difference
the Commonwealth,
in
and
Great
oh
Britain.
dear.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, Great Britain. Oh, I don't know. And then you've got the British Isles with it, which is a geographical thing. So it confuses the best of people really. Anyway, right, I'm going to kick off with my little rant about facts, etc. Um, as you can see, the title. Let's just get this exactly right. So let me see if I can see it. Call out debaters should not be judged as winners if their facts are wrong. Now, I wish to make it clear that a fact is something which is a hard fact, which is verifiable and also an agreed understanding of something, rather than something which is arbitrary and opinionated or subjective. Like something like something which I would not hold as a fact is, oh, the American Civil War was fought over slavery. That to me, that's not a fact. That is an arguable concept. A fact is something, like we have football here. That's what you call it soccer, right? Okay, like when we like play football here, that means like we actually kick the ball with our feet. Whereas like when you play football there, you you pick the ball up with your hands, don't you? And kick it with your feet. Anyway, like if you said that Manchester United won the league championship, the Premiership championship last season, and actually they didn't. It was Liverpool who won it. I mean, to me, that is a fact, So just make sure that we're singing from the same hymn sheet, as it were. So yeah, so that's my argument is that call-out debaters should not be judged winners if they get their facts wrong. So I'll pass over
Okay.
to you.
So I heard most of that. I don't know if it's my internet or yours, because I mean, I guess we both have some connectivity issues, but I would lose a couple of individual words there. So I'm not sure if I heard the whole thing, but I think I got the gist of it. So basically, essentially, you were defining fact as a hard fact, something which there is a agreed upon understanding. And your example for that was Manchester United. So like there could be dissent on what the definition of football is, whether or not football is soccer, whether or not football is the thing you play with your feet. That's a subjective question, which is dependent on where you are. But Manchester United did not win the Premier League, so it would be a inaccurate statement to say Manchester United did win. Is that correct? Summary of what you said. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Yes. Absolutely. Yes. I'll speak a little bit slowly because the internet is not brilliant tonight.
Yeah. No.
So
you
I'll try and speak a little bit more.
Can you hear everything I'm saying? Is it all coming through clear on my end?
Yeah, absolutely. You're really good. Yeah, absolutely. But it's, as I say, I'm going to have to switch to a hardwired connection here, I think.
Yeah, no
to get
worries.
this the streaming.
I think I can hear most of what you're saying, so it should be
It's
all
annoying.
good. So the difference that I see, I do have an opening statement that I'll give in a moment here, but first I just want to clarify the questions in fact and everything. Before I go into my contentions, I want to know, how do you intend to set this up? Are you saying that judges should automatically disqualify people who use inaccurate facts? Are you saying that voters should automatically vote against people? How are you enforcing this? And is it judges? Is it voters? What is your plan on this?
Okay, it would have to be done by the judges solely, not by voters. No, the judges, as I see it, are put into a position of trust and authority, and they must have some credibility, and so the judges would have to verify a fact. But let me make the point that I think it would be fair to actually make it so that only terms, it would only really work if the fact that one's opponent is stating is actually challenged by by his opponent. I'll give you an example. I debated a gentleman last week. We were talking about the Israel and the occupied territories, and I said that the settlers in the West Bank were fully integrated citizens of Israel proper, with full citizen rights, etc., recognized under law. And he said they weren't. He said that they were a renegade faction, and Israel, I mean, I can't quote him exactly, but it was sort of words to the effect of that they weren't actually sanctioned by Israel, etc. That it was some sort of an illegal offshoot group of people who had settled in the West Bank. And I challenged that. I said, you're completely wrong about that. In point of fact, actually, after we had the debate, he actually messaged me separately and agreed that he was wrong and I was right. So, it's something like that. Another one is where a friend of mine, Julian, was debating the same sort of subject, and his opponent said that Israel had withdrawn from the Golan Heights. Of course, Julian said, no, they haven't. And he's right, they hadn't. So, if somebody is using...
You called him on it in the debate, and anyone who looked at the fact could verify what you said?
Yes. Yes, indeed, absolutely. Yes, I mean, he verified it himself after the debate. I mean, that's just a few, Google clicks, basically, to verify that. The same with the other one, with the Golan Heights, for instance. So what I mean is, if your opponent is using basically just a complete false fact to try and counter your argument, I just can't see how that is debating. I mean, you could just say, as I say, if we go to the football analogy and you say, Liverpool were a far better team last season than Manchester United were, and I say, oh, how could they be? Because Manchester United won the Premiership. And you're kind of like, oh dear, but actually that's a lie, because they didn't, so it's like, that's the sort of thing which like really sucks. It's like, so to me, like if there's a point that which is a hard verifiable fact, very easily verifiable, the judges should step in and say, no, I'm sorry, but effectively you're disqualified.
So one more question before I get into my responses and everything. But this debate that you had, I believe you're talking about one you had with Ben, right? But it wasn't a tournament debate, right? So we don't have resident judges who come for regular debates. Are you suggesting that there must be, when there's an issue, you're saying we call in judges just on regular debates?
Well, not necessarily, no. I mean, understand me. I mean, I do take part in the tournaments, but to me, it's it's the the satisfaction of actually debating is my thing. I don't really do it for the winning anything. I mean, I didn't really necessarily mean either debates. I'm just saying where it is a debate which is judged by a resident judge, and of course that is, as I understand it, the tournament debates. Then yes, those judges should step in and make that decision. Apart from that, I mean, there are so many other debates going on that are not in the tournament. I think it's fair to say that, in practical terms, to ask the judges to do all that sort of work is probably not practical. I think we would need to have that confined solely to the tournament rounds, and I would imagine that.
Okay. Well, I think I know where you stand then, and I have an opening statement with several contentions. So let me get into that then. So the first point, just the overall perspective that I have is that I think that the call-out standard is already excellent, because call-out has it where judges are to judge based on the question of who makes the better case. And that can include whether or not someone has made good facts. It can include whether or not someone was on topic. It can include advantages versus disadvantages. It's just a question of who makes a better case. And that is left up to the judge to determine how to answer that question. I think that's the best standard to have it at, rather than having a specific, you must be disqualified for this specific thing. And I have 5 reasons for that. So the first reason I have is that the status quo already solves. I talked about this for a moment ago, but judges already have the option of voting against a debater based on inaccurate facts. What you're suggesting won't change anything, because they already have the ability, if they want to vote against a debater for making a completely false claim. If someone had said Manchester United won the Premier League, or if someone said the Los Angeles Galaxy won La Liga, well, obviously that didn't happen. That would show that the person clearly was wrong. Yeah, they couldn't. So it's clearly an inaccurate fact. And that would be something where a judge would have the opportunity, if they wanted to vote against them. But the difference between what you're saying and the way it currently is it's an option for the judge. And that's the better way of doing it than having it be an automatic disqualification, because you allow the judge to make a decision for themselves. The second contention I have is that of a small slip up versus a big mistake. If your standard is that if someone has inaccurate facts, even if they are completely objective, straightforward facts, there is a difference between a small slip up on facts and a big mistake on facts. For instance, if I was to accidentally say Rand Jones at CNN said this quote, but I actually misspoke his name is objectively, factually, absolutely 100% certain it is Van Jones, not Rand Jones. So I stated something which would be an inaccurate fact, but I would not deserve to be disqualified for saying that. Yeah. Because there's a difference between a small slip up versus a big mistake on that. And that also leads to my third contention here, which is that factual mistakes are often subjective. And a lot of the reason for this is that a person's predetermined conclusion will often influence how they view facts, causing them to see the exact same facts in a totally different light. And that's the entire reason we have debates, since people think facts support them when oftentimes they don't. An example of this was Michael Vineyard, or I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right, but he argued that my facts were wrong because he said that no legal scholars would have ever said that Donald Trump Jr. receiving information from the Russians was illegal. But actually he was wrong, because I had quoted actual legal scholars who said exactly that. So in his statement where he was saying my facts were wrong, actually his facts were wrong to have said that in the first place. So I understand where he was coming from. He felt that this was a fact, and he thought it was an objective, provable fact that no scholars would ever say it. But it was actually the fact that there was this sort of thing. So that's the problem here. It's easy to say we should be able to judge on facts, and I understand why you'd say that. Like Manchester United won when clearly they didn't, or Los Angeles Galaxy won La Liga when they don't even compete in La Liga. Those are easy to prove facts. But usually the question is, how do you determine specific objective fact when oftentimes it is a very subjective determination? The fourth contention I have, and I have 5, so just 2 more here for you. But the 4th contention I have is that it'll be difficult to have solvency and enforcement on this. We clarified a moment ago that you're going to require judges to be the fact checkers, but that increases their burden and time engagement, especially if they're called in for regular debates when they shouldn't need to be called in for regular debates. If judges are being used, it should be specific to the tournament. And then even then, if we are saying that people should be disqualified just for using bad facts, well, you're going to have a whole ton of disputes over, wait, I didn't use bad facts. I used good facts. This is actually a good fact. And then people will be arguing over those facts rather than arguing on the actual debate itself. So then the judges have to keep stepping in, have to keep arguing over, no, you used this bad fact, therefore you lost. Rather than, look, on the overall case, you lost because he made a better case. The way it currently is better because you don't need the level of enforcement that would be required under your system. And the fifth contention I have here is that it removes the burden from the opposition. You talked about how in your debate, you were challenged. I believe it was a debate with Ben, but you were challenged and you were able to point to an actual fact. Well, that's good. And that was a provable fact that any judge or any voter could have looked up and found and established with you. It should not have been something that disqualified your opponent. It should have been something where you as a debater should defeat your opponent by pointing out the fact that his facts are wrong. So overall, I think that the standard that we currently have, which is that the judges should be able to ask the question of who makes the better case, is a better standard than the one that you're proposing, which is that debaters should be disqualified for saying such things. And with that, I will turn it back over to you.
Can
Okay.
you feel that again? Because
I
can't
will say
remember
that
what you
just
said now. It's such a lot of stuff.
do you want the title of each argument?
No, it's all right. No, it's
think
okay.
you get-
I'm only joking. I'm only
Okay.
joking. I think I get it. No. It's okay. It's okay. I'm joking. I'm joking. Well, hang on. Let me just go back. I mean, a lot of that I agree with you on. I really do. Let me just go through. Okay. That yes, I mean, we've already sort of discussed that it would have to be confined to the tournament because the resident judges would have far too much work to do otherwise. The thing about you said that the debate in question, it actually wasn't Ben. I have debated Ben, and we've had similar sort of clashes like that, but it was actually somebody else this time. But I mean, even if you challenge someone's facts and says, look, say, I'm sorry, but you are wrong about what you say. That doesn't convince your opponent that you're right. I mean, you can just say, look, you're wrong, I'm right, you're wrong, I'm right, and you can throw it back and forward all night. I don't have faith in voters saying, before I vote for Mike or Ben or whoever it is, I'm just going to check this fact. I haven't got confidence that voters will do that, but I do feel that it is a requirement that where someone has used a fact in order to try to hammer home their case, and that fact is challenged by their opponent, that should certainly be checked up by the judges. I say they can't sort of just go through the whole thing and say, oh, I better check this, better check that, better check that. It would have to be qualified by, as I say, that someone's fact would have to be challenged. It's a bit like if we're talking about sport in sailing, I think there's a lot of thing where there's if you're sailing and you can put in an objection to your opposing team, and the judges then have to look at it to see whether you've cheated. So it would have to be, I think I'm trying to recall now all the things you said, because you did talk for quite a long time then. You mentioned something about a fact which I thought was actually slightly subjective, and I have to say that couldn't really. Oh yes, sorry, I remember what you were saying now. You started off by saying something about like if you'd have made just a little slip up and you quoted somebody and you got his name slightly wrong, well, that's almost like a typo in a book, really. And I don't think that's really what I call a hard, contended fact. No, it's not. That's just it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really take anything away. The fact that Jim Smith said something and it was actually John Smith who said it, whatever, doesn't really matter. If I've missed anything from one of your points, then you're going to have to just, reiterate some of the things. I'm trying to sort of counter the things that you said, but as I say, the 5 things were pretty lengthy. So have I covered everything there?
Okay, so let me just go through, I believe in order, the arguments that you responded to. You pointed out that even if you challenge someone on a fact and you can establish that something is a fact, it won't convince your opponent, was your response to me. But my response to that is that it's not about convincing your opponent. There are so many debates that I have had where I have easily won. Not to be arrogant or anything, but there are quite a few that I've easily won as far as debates. And oftentimes, even though everyone who votes knows I won, the debater who I debated will not see that. And I think you've probably seen the same thing. You probably had debates where you easily won, and yet the person who you debated doesn't know that they lost and won't admit that they lost. And so they're determined to keep going. But that's not the point. Because that's the whole point of debate in the first place, is that it's very subjective and it's very open to interpretation. We're rarely going to actually change the mind of the person we are debating. But the question here is whether or not someone should be disqualified for saying a bad fact. And I certainly don't think that's the case. And I'll go back into the reason why in a moment here. But first, let me just finish responding to the others here. Oh, okay, actually, you were... Yeah, go ahead.
Well, can I just come back in there just before, because otherwise I'm going to sort of forget, what you said. I think really it all hinges on, if your opponent is using this bad fact to make his case, and even though it's wrong, he is gaining audience support. Oh yes, he's really countered this bloke, but he's said something that's a complete falsehood. I just find that that sort of situation.
If that's the case, if someone is using a completely false fact, which they base the rest of their case on, then the judges will already vote against them. That's already the correct step. Yes, they will.
Well, will they? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I hope that's the. I hope that's the case. I really do. But I don't know whether it's actually been in the tournament. But sorry,
okay. I was just going to say that what you're asking is that judges look up contested facts,
bit laggy,
which I agree with, and I believe that's already the standard, because it's the question of who makes a better case. And so oftentimes when I have voted on rounds, I have looked up contested facts and gone, oh wow, that's interesting. I remember there was a debate where they had a question about the resolution, and Neil was the debater, and I think it was like the semifinals in the last tournament. And he's like, if you look this up, you will see that my interpretation is the one that comes up on Google. And I looked it up, and he was right. That was exactly the case. And that's all that my case is that is the way it should be. Rather than having an automatic disqualification for someone saying a bad fact, it should be something that should be up to the debaters. They should have their own burden to point out, hey, my opponent is completely wrong about this, and feel free to look this up, and you will see that these facts are true. That's the difference, I think, between the two of us.
But we could all say, look, I'm telling you I'm right, and you can look this up yourself. You can check it out. But how many people actually do that? I mean, yes, you do. Because you're very serious about it, and that's great. But I think a lot of people wouldn't do that. But I just think that, yes, where it is something that is really important to the argument and you're using the false facts, I do think, where it's a judged debate, then You say that the judges automatically do that. I don't know. I mean, it's great if they do, absolutely. But if they don't, then I just think that should definitely be one of the criteria that the judges are guided by.
Well, I agree with you. I certainly do, and I think that when asking the question, actually, what? I already know that the judges do. In the last debate between actually two debates from round one of this most recent tournament, I saw judges who specifically looked up definitions and then provided those definitions. Sarah Miller, I believe I'm saying her name right, but she used a definition as part of her judgment on one of the rounds, because the whole question of the round had been, what is the definition of must? So she looked it up and read it as part of her definition. So judges are already doing that. So what you're saying makes sense, except that's already part of the status quo. So I don't see any reason why we should have an automatic disqualification. And let me have a second response to that too, which is that I think the only time when your case would actually be necessary is in these situations where the opponent's entire case is dependent upon a bad fact. Because you're already agreeing with me that if they say a small misfact, that's not grounds for disqualification. Well, that's a very subjective thing too. Who says what the ground of your entire case is? I think that what you're proposing makes sense, but it's already solved by the status quo in a better way.
Yeah, but I think most people, and especially most judges would understand that a minor thing with just getting someone's name unintentionally wrong is not the whole hinging on your argument. But saying something like China is a member of the United Nations Security Council, and you're that's a very key part of your argument, and in actual fact they're not a member. I mean, actually I don't know whether they are or not, but it doesn't matter. But an easily verifiable fact. I don't know. I mean, you've probably got a slight advantage of me because I'm fairly new to QallOut. I think I'm the only person in the UK who's actually part of this community. I want to see it succeed. I want to see it respected, and set some standards. And I want it to gain viewers on YouTube, etc. I think I'm not sure actually whether I'm still in the tournament or not, because I did a debate the other night and had technical issues and it just all sort of flopped, but I don't know. So as I say, I've done quite a lot of debates, but not very many in the tournament.
I think you've actually been on QallOut longer than I have. So I only joined QallOut during the last tournament, so I'm pretty new here as well. But I love it, and I agree with you. I'd love for more YouTube views. I'd love for debating in general to become essentially a sport, which Yaz was telling me is the goal long term, and I love that idea. But one thing that I don't think is going to help it get there is if we become overly legalistic, and if we become too focused on disqualifications rather than on encouraging actual debate itself. And I think that the best way to solve your issue is by letting judges answer this question on their own and letting debaters do this on their own. Actually, I'll bring up another example here. Like a few nights ago, I had a debate with Nelson where we debated over the primary cause of the Civil War, which Bronson had also debated a couple weeks ago. And I think you saw that under the Facebook comments when we first proposed this debate. But when I debated with Nelson, he said that the South was not going to continue slavery because it was not economically advantageous, which is a complete falsehood. And that legitimately is a fact that is wrong on his part. It was a multi-billion-dollar industry, which is provable, and you can look it up, and I pointed to sources who could prove that fact. That being said, this would be an exact example of what you're talking about. Someone whose entire case based on a fact that, okay, no, what's the difference?
It wouldn't though, not really.
All right.
No, I've got to disagree. I've got to disagree there because I'm sorry in interrupt. It's just, as I say, I need to kind of jump in just to, otherwise I'll forget what you said. But because you said the South was going to you know, you know, that's kind of like, you know, it's not, that is not a fact that the South was going to, you say, give
Well,
up
I mean,
slavery. Is that what you
the,
said?
the
You know,
fact
was going to give up slavery.
the
You know,
fact
that
that
is,
what
I
he was
can't see how
claiming was
you
a
can.
fact was slavery is not economically
You know,
advantageous. From that, he extrapolated the rest of his. That is a proof.
yeah. Well, again, it's a little bit it's a little bit subjective because, you know, economically advantageous. You know, that economists could actually argue over that point. No, I mean, you know, don't get me wrong. I mean, obviously, this is not. I'm not advocating something where judges are kind of having to, you know, check every you know few sentences. Oh, let's just check this. Let's just check that. You know, I see this as a fairly minor thing, but important. You know, but what I really, I've got to sort of stick to sort of very simple things, and it would be something as simple as, you know, South Carolina fought on the on the northern side in the Civil War. You know, in actual fact, was that right? Because they didn't, did they? They South Carolina, they fought on the south side. Is that right?
I believe
Is
so.
that,
Yeah,
I don't
believe
know,
yeah.
because you know it's not really my thing. That, I mean, I'm more like English
The
Civil
fact,
War. You know,
the
the
fact that
English Civil
even
War. Do you remember that?
sorry,
There's no such thing as. I was just going to say, you know, there's no such thing as the English Civil War. Do you know
well, the
that?
fact that even now you and I can dissent. The fact is,
Because we had lots of civil wars. That's just the point I'm making.
yeah, no,
Anyway, it's just a
I
bit of
get
a
your
joke.
point.
Anyway,
that there are certain facts that are completely 100% verifiable.
right?
But the difference between the two is that I would
Yeah,
say if there's a fact that
but
is 100% verifiable, let that be up to the judges, rather than making it a inherent disqualification. Also, there's still a subjective element in what you're saying, which is you're not saying disqualify someone for saying a completely inaccurate fact unless their case is dependent upon it. Like, for instance, when I said Rand Jones versus Van Jones, that is a 100% verifiable fact, and which you agreed with. But you wouldn't disqualify someone for that because their case was not based on that. There's a subjective question of what a case is based on. So even in your standard, you're still putting an element of subjectivity into this, which would be much better served just by letting the judges decide this for themselves and just by letting the debaters question each other's facts on their own.
I don't know. I mean, I'm just kind of envisaging sort of certain situations whereby somebody might be using a complete falsehood to make their case, and the opponent is challenging that information. You know, the opponent can shout all he likes and says, "You're wrong. You know, South Carolina fought for the South, not the North." And the other ones go, "No, no, they didn't. They fought for them. Don't be ridiculous." You know, da, da, da. And this is what, you know. And he's sort of hammering home all these points. And yes, South Carolina did this. South Carolina. And you think, yeah, but they didn't fight on that side. They fought on the other. You know, like, you know. So, you know, that's the sort of thing where it's a clear case, not sort of things which are kind of like, oh, the South was going to do this, or the South this, or it wasn't economically viable. And because, as I say, you know, economists could argue that until the cows come home, as we say in England. You know, because what is economics? You know, it has advantages and disadvantages. You know, in all different sorts of people. No, so, you know, as I say, I think, you know, keep it simple where it is a simple thing. You know, and I think the two examples that I gave you are actually very important examples where, you know, I was making the case for Israel not being a democracy, and I cited the idea that the Jewish Israelis who lived in the West Bank were full Israeli citizens under Israeli law, and my opponent says no, they're not. They're just renegades, you know, like the guys in the Wild West and all that sort of thing, which is just complete nonsense. You know, they are definitely, you know, backed by the Israeli government. So, you know, he was a very robust opponent, actually, I must say. His name now will come to me. God, he's going to be cursing me now because Oh dear. But that was a really important part of the democracy argument, was that there was two people living under two different laws, and he was very skillfully countering my arguments, but actually with a falsehood. So to me, I thought that was, although it wasn't in the tournament, so it doesn't really matter. Yes, it does actually. Of course it does, because I didn't want to lose. So there we are. But yeah, I just think that's that's unfair, because people go, yes, I'm going to vote for him because he sounds better. Am I going to check that fact? No, he sounds better.
Well, what you're proposing, though, doesn't have anything to do with that sort of debate, because it only would apply to judges, and judges only apply to the tournament. And then these facts would only apply if it's central to someone's case, and that would only occur 1 in a million times.
Well, it was. But that was actually central to my opponent's case.
But was it in the tournament?
It was, absolutely.
But it wasn't in the tournament, right?
Sorry? No, it wasn't. It doesn't. No, it doesn't matter. And I'm not saying to step in on my debate. I'm not saying that at all. Please don't get me wrong. No. All I'm saying is that I'm just using that as an example of something that is actually crucial to the whole debate. That were it in the tournament, that is a sort of thing that the judges should have stepped in and says, no, like you've based your defence on a complete falsehood, so therefore we can't award you the victory in that round.
Yeah, I agree, and I think the difference between oh, sorry, are you done?
Yeah, no, but yeah, fine.
I think the difference between us is that you're saying it should be an automatic disqualification, whereas I am saying that it should be something where the judges should be able to look that up on their own. And if it is this verifiable, conclusive fact that you're saying it is, allow the judges to make that decision on their own. Who makes the best case? And if there is a time when someone is basing their entire case on something that is false and something that is provably false, then that is already solved by the current system, because a judge just does a Google search and, oh, wow, there it is right there. Because we already know that's happening. Like I pointed out that Sarah had done that. She had brought up a definition. I've seen judges look up things and say, this is what I found when I did a Google search, or this is what I found when I looked up what you guys told me to look up. The difference is you're taking the responsibility off of the debaters and saying it should be an automatic disqualification, when really it should be something that is left the way it is currently. And honestly, I think we both agree that if someone says something that is completely false and bases their case off of that, they should not win that round. Where we disagree is that you think they should be disqualified from that round. I don't think they should be disqualified from the round. I think they should lose the round. But that's not reason for disqualification. There's no, especially if someone believes something, they might genuinely believe their thing that they are basing their case off of. They have not done anything that is immoral or unethical if they genuinely believed it. They should lose because they're wrong, but they shouldn't be disqualified because they didn't do anything intentionally.
Well, okay. I mean, the thing is, I haven't. I don't think I've really used the word disqualified. I sort of said, that they shouldn't be, judged as winning. Perhaps I'm getting the terminology wrong, but I just mean that they shouldn't win that round. That particular debate. But maybe it's the same thing. I don't know. I just the word disqualification. It kind of hints. I don't know. I'm just saying that. They should not be awarded winning that tournament if they based their a strong part of their case on a complete falsehood. But you mentioned something about taking away responsibility from the debaters. Actually, I think that actually puts the responsibility on the debaters, because it just it puts some emphasizes the seriousness, really, to say that look, if you are going to present a case, then and if it's going to be based on these things, then you do need to get some of these core things correct, because if you if it's something that's really important like that, because otherwise, it could end up saying like, oh, do you like my black shirt? It's good, isn't it? And of course, you might think it's white, but I know it's black. So there.
Well,
can you still hear me?
I'm not really sure where we disagree then, because I think that what it sounds, if you're not arguing for disqualification, it sounds like you're arguing for the current call-out rules, which is what I'm advocating for, right?
But what would, when you say disqualification, I mean, what how would you describe that? I mean, like disqualification from the entire tournament?
Well, I mean, if you automatically lose, you're out of the tournament. So yeah, and a loss kicks you out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I suppose so.
Yeah.
I suppose so. If it's a debate, in the tournament, and the judges are kind of thinking, well, who gives the better case? But the one of the contestants has made a really obvious misquote of a fact, and his contestant has challenged that fact. Then no, I think that really decides it in the challenger's favor. Sorry. Whoever is right on their fact, I think that should really sway it his way.
Sure. So the funny thing is, I don't think
we're agreed. We're agreed.
We both agree, but I think the difference is just, or actually there isn't even a difference. We both think that it should be up to the judges, right? Or are you saying that it should be an automatic loss still, or are you saying the judge should just choose to award the win to the other team?
No, I think that the judges should. I mean, and obviously, I don't want to, with all due respect to the judges, because they are doing a good job, and I just want to sort of ensure. Obviously, I haven't got the rule book of what the judges are supposed to go on. I don't know, because I'm not a judge, but I just really want to ensure, that if I'm going to enter a tournament and I'm going to spend time researching, which I very often do with a lot of my serious debates. I spend time researching some very careful facts, and I make damn sure that those facts are from respected and verifiable sources. And if my opponent doesn't do that and simply kind of counters my factual statement with something that's just completely unviable, but he sounds good because he's a good arguer, that just doesn't really do it for me. I think, no, why do I want to do this? What's the point?
No, I
think it's really being it's being respectful to everyone, really. It's being respectful to the people who take it seriously, who do the research. It's being respectful to the judges as well. So I think at the end of the day, we should be going for those sort of standards.
Yeah.
Yes,
I think at the end of this debate, discussion, whatever this is, but I think that both of us would agree that the resident judges should not award a victory to someone who said something that is completely false and then base their case off of that. I think we both agree on that. I think
yes, indeed.
I do not
yes,
believe
absolutely.
that there needs to be any procedural or structural change, because that's already part of the way judges are looking at it. And I think that you have clarified as well that you're not saying this should be done for non-tournament debates. It shouldn't be done for regular voters, just for resident judges. I think both of us would agree that when they it should makes the better case.
Yeah. If Danny, we've only got 1.5 minutes left. I mean, all I can really say is that if the judges are already doing that, then great. And I hope then that they will take our discussion as an endorsement of that policy. To say that this is what the debaters want. That to apply reason, but professionalism, and to respect our research, etc., and to do that. So if you guys at QallOut, if you're doing this as judges, then you're doing a great job, and I, for one, and I think Daniel too, appreciates that. So carry on the good work. So I'm going to bid you good night from the UK, and I'm going to leave you with 47
Too
seconds.
much. It's good
So
to hear
it's
your
been good
voice.
to talk to you.
I must say, I
Okay.
always enjoy when I listen or watch debates. I love hearing your voice. It's just very peaceful and soothing and calming. So it's really cool to hear. And I'm going to change my vote to a draw just because I think we both agree on this. So no, neither of us should win on either of this. But yeah, so good discussion. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Good one. Yeah. All right.
And now we wait for 10 seconds.
Night night. Okay. Yeah. Out now. I'm going out for the night now. So there we are. Yeah. Okay. All the best.